Let's turn to public comment, and I believe we only have, let's see, we've got two signed up for public comment. First on Zoom, we've got Jan Goodwin. We have 2 minutes for each. Do we have Jan Goodwin with us? You know, actually, we went to 3 minutes last month. Since we only have two, I think we can hold to that. So if we've got Sarah, okay, we've also got Jay Blaine. Okay, if we don't have Jan with us
I don't
online,
know if you can hear me. I'm not able to get audio.
Is this
I can't
Jan?
hear on your end.
Okay, Jan, we can hear you on our end. You've got 3 minutes. We've bumped it up by a minute since we've only got a short number of commenters.
Unmuted.
All right, we can hear you. Can you hear us? Jan, can you unmute? All right, he's unmuted. I don't think he can hear us. Why don't we go to our in-person? We'll come back to you, Jan. So we've got Jay Blaine signed up, and then we've got, sorry, what was the second name? Sarah Erb. All right, Jay.
Good morning. Jay Blaine with the Utah Education Association. First of all, I'd like to thank the board for their engagement during the legislative session and their collaboration with us and other education stakeholders. Together, we were able to do some very positive things for public education, and that was much appreciated. There were some maybe not so nice things that happened, but I think overall we were able to accomplish some very positive things for students and educators as a whole. And I wanted to recognize the efforts of many of you who contributed to that effort. Also, we do have one ask today on your agenda. You have possibility of discussing some possible vetoes of legislation. We have already asked the governor to veto House Bill 427, individual freedom in public education. And I would like to just suggest some possible reasons that we would ask you to join us in that request. This board has put an incredible amount of work in compromise and crafting your rule, R277328. And the LEAs have adopted policies to comply with that. And we need time to see if those efforts are working and if these policies need tweaking or changing to accomplish the goals to meet what the legislative did in their extraordinary sessions previous to you crafting those policies. Also, it adds more assurances to the LEAs to put into their documents and more work for the LEAs when really what we should be doing is having less of those and taking more work off the LEAs' plates. And finally, it ignores the fact that educators already must teach course standards adopted by the State Board of Education using curriculum and instructional materials adopted by their local school board. HB 427 perpetuates the harmful myth that Utah educators in public schools indoctrinate students, and instead, Utah schools need policies that foster inclusive school communities where every child feels welcome, supported, and understood by educators, much like Board Member Davis did in her wonderful message, where every student feels supported and welcomed. There are, lofty language in House Bill 427 that sends some positive messages, but the overall message is we don't believe is helpful, or some of the requirements are overwhelming to LEAs and possibly to educators as well. So we'd encourage you to just ask for the veto and support us in the request for the veto as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jay. We have Sarah Erb, or Erd. I may be butchering your last name. Apologies. Thank you for joining us. 3 minutes.
Thank you, board members. It's great to be here. The last time I was here, it was for my child's transitional IEP meeting from early intervention from the blind PIP program. PIP stands for Parent Intervention. Is that right? Parent Intervention Program. And so it's good to be back here again. I have a book that we came across a few years ago. It's called Fortunately. I think it's probably pretty old, but I read it to my kid who's 8, and it was really neat to see. It has different instances of, unfortunately, this thing happened. Fortunately, something came out of it that was good. And as I read through this toward the end, I was like, ooh, if I would have had books like this as a kid, to be able to have the emotional intelligence to work through some things, that would have been amazing. We have some schools that are doing a really lovely job with that. They're helping students to understand the importance of that emotional intelligence aspect, and they're also doing that with inclusion. We are hearing a lot about inclusion this year, and it's been kind of interesting as I've been watching certain meetings, hearing about our USDB's administration going to different places around the world, to California, to Australia, to look at inclusive models, when we have some really great models right here in Utah. I would love to invite any of you to go see my child's school. She goes to a charter school in Rose Park. So we live in Sarah Reels district, and the charter school is in Rose Park, which is in Leanne Woods district. It's been an eye-opener for us. We did not know this school existed. We live in Glendale, and it was right under our noses the whole time. So I have a little bit of topic about fortunately and unfortunately. When we were here last time in this building, we decided to place our child in a dual enrollment at the blind school and Mill Creek campus. Fortunately, they had a couple of aides there that were blind, and we thought we were silly not to use that opportunity to have people who read Braille and use a cane on a regular basis to have them as mentors for our student or for our kindergartner. Unfortunately, part of the way through the year, we found out that they were removing her from her least restrictive environment without our consent. And they were removing her, she's completely blind, they were removing her from music time for a whole month. And we said no. We took her out of that placement overnight, and we didn't know where she was going to go. Through some calls with parents, I learned about this charter school. So we didn't know she was just going to be planning on staying at home with my husband because we didn't have another place for her until we figured some things out. Fortunately, we found this charter school by accident, and they had a parent night that next week, and we brought everything to them, and we said, well, they said, we'll take care of her. They gave her everything she needed, including technology and an inclusive environment. And I invite you to reach out to the Parents of Blind Children group. We are ready to give you input, to give you feedback, to inform your decisions that you'll be making this year. Thank you for this time today.
Thank you, Sarah. Okay, do we have Jan Goodwin online? Can you hear us? We lost.
So we don't have Zoom. We gotta reset the Wi-Fi. Is the Wi-Fi up now though? Does everybody have Wi-Fi? Okay, so,
Hear you now.
okay,
Nope.
there we go.
Okay,
Yeah,
I think we've got
it's
Jan.
Probably gonna cycle through, sir, so just
Yeah.
check in with them.
Gotcha, thank you, okay. All right, Jan, can you hear us?
I can hear you.
Okay, when we can hear you, you've got 3 minutes. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. I just want to thank the board for all of their support of education and the contributions you make, especially to adult education. Today, I want proposed amendments to R277-733, which is adult ed post-testing. Adult education programs, when they enroll a student, give a pre-test that sets, we then give a post-test that's required after 40 hours, no earlier than 40 hours by board rule. The problem with that is that we have many students that can get the level gain from pre-test, post-test, which shows their mastery, but it's also how our programs are evaluated for effectiveness. Proposed that we take a look at that 40-hour rule. It doesn't match up with the PCBL that we've been studying quite diligently in the last couple of months. But the problem that we have is they're recommending following the test publishers guidelines. The their guidelines, it's CASAS. I talked to Linda Taylor of CASAS, and they allow exceptions to the 40-hour rule. For example, leaving a program early, the student could be testing after completing the course of study, and most importantly, approval by a local program administrator when testing early is appropriate. We're losing lots of data that we use to further refine, build learning plans for each student. We lose that data when we can't test them if they're going to graduate before 40 hours. We lose that data. So just sum it up, if the board could take a look at that policy, which I believe is recommended to go to 50 hours, which would further exacerbate our issues. Where it doesn't apply to every student, but those students that can master the materials early and are ready to graduate lose that data. And so it's my humble request that you would consider allowing program administrators to follow the publisher's post-testing guidelines, including early post-testing when deemed appropriate by local program administrators. Please be aware that an hour post-testing policy, that 40-hour or 50 for all students rescinds the early test exemptions granted by the test publisher, which was another thing that we were trying to follow, but there are exceptions. We would like to have those included if possible. Know that the test data that we use is very important in identifying areas where students need to improve. And then we build a very detailed plan to fill those learning gaps. We would like to assess right after they fill those learning gaps so that we can use that data to further refine, verify that gaps have been filled. It also helps students build their confidence knowing that they have gone up a level or two, say from 8th or 9th grade up to 11th or 12th grade level. But we can't verify. We know that students are gather that information, even though they are able to pass rigorous tests such as the GED or the finals that they need for credit and graduate.
Jan, your time is up, but can you give us a summation or wrap it up?
Wrap up summation, again, just look at the test publisher allows exceptions. We would like those exceptions, if possible, for local administrators to test as early as they deem appropriate, and then not lose those options based on a hard and fast 40 or 50-hour post-testing policy. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jan, for joining us. Thanks to all of our public commenters. And again, instructions for sign up are available on the website if you'd like to offer public comment. We greatly appreciate community input